Hi everyone, it's Alan Shimel, DevOps.com, DevOps TV, and we're here at IBM Think 2018, Las Vegas. And I'm joined once again by James Hunter.
Um,
James, welcome. And to his right, Jim Carey, also of IBM.
That's right.
Jim, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good. Welcome to DevOps TV. So guys, we're here to talk a little DevOps, hence the name, DevOps.com. But seriously, I've been doing this IBM show now for 3 or 4 years. This might be the 4th year. And when I first started DevOps.com, what is DevOps? How do I put my finger on DevOps? What is this DevOps? I don't hear that as much anymore. We've certainly seen an evolution in the market where people, I think, kind of understand what DevOps is. And there's some hot buttons that have come out, right? Testing is one of them. DevSecOps security is another one. But when we look at fact patterns, of organizations, James, you probably deal with as many organizations or more than I do in my travels. What kind of fact patterns and kind of, patterns are you seeing emerge?
yeah, it's interesting you say that. So I think also that people are coming to a common understanding of the objective of DevOps,
Yes.
the realization of that. And there's also an understanding that it's an aspiration around the realization of value as opposed to particular things that one has to do on a particular project. And what we're beginning to see, though, is there's very disparate adoption around cultural approaches and technology approaches to achieve that. And some of that, we believe, is driven because there's also an increasing choice of the technology that they're going to use to implement things as well. There's the evolution of digital transformation, there's the movement to IoT, there's now cognitive services that are changing the way. Blockchain is changing business processes and supply chain, which are all putting more and more demand on it. And the more demand that's placed on an IT organization makes it harder for them to start readopting and relearning new stuff to achieve that. So we feel there's an evolution going on around the DevOps. I agree that people are beginning to realize there's value in that. It makes sense from a cultural perspective. Now, how do we progress that? And what we've seen is that up to this point, there's been a lot of use of automation to try and speed things up, to make that easier. Now with the scale and growth, we're seeing that change once again from automation to augmentation to help assist the people through those processes of understanding what DevOps is and how to implement it to achieve those values. So we're definitely seeing that evolution as well.
Jim, how about yourself?
So I agree with everything James has said, all of it.
Okay.
But then what I see a lot is that our customers, enterprise customers typically with a lot of applications, a lot of legacy tools, and a need to develop new things, are actually at a crossroads where they're not even sure what to do next. My background is operations management and infrastructure operations. And I run into customers, if not on a weekly basis, very close, who say, I don't know how to take my next steps. So we're watching this transformation with a great deal of confusion coming from that side of the business. I think what we're seeing is this transformation from this centralized IT operation used to be kind of the kings of the world and got to tell people how the world was going to work, to becoming really a service organization for various levels of DevOps implementations across an enterprise, all the way from we don't ever have to touch that to where we've gone completely DevOps, continuous delivery, and of course everything in between. So the operations job has actually become much more challenging, trying to help enterprises adopt to the DevOps environments.
So the operations mission has become more challenging. The jobs are crazy, right? You're an SRE, you're a DevOps team member or DevOps engineer. They're all varying degrees along the spectrum, if you will, of what we used to just call ops.
Right.
And so, and it's not that ops has become specialized. I think it's just the mission is crazy. You said something, James, that really kind of I wanted to bring up for both of you to hit on, and that is that, look, if you're a large enterprise and you are faced with, in essence, transform or die, right? Because your competitors are.
Absolutely.
What are your choices? We could keep putting more straws on the camel's back, right? Keep doing what we're doing, put a couple more straws on and hope it doesn't break. Or we can look to do something different. And we could do something that's radical, as we were talking about in a previous interview with our friends from HCL, right? Where you're just going to throw the babies out with the bathwater, but we're going to do something radically different because fortune favors the bold. Or we create a bridge, right? And some sort of path to transformation, to something sustainable. And as you mentioned, risk management, obviously part of it.
Oh.
But, for an old ops person, right? It's daunting, to say the
Definitely
least.
daunting. But with large organizations, you have the luxury of being able to be radical in pockets.
Okay.
So the idea of a whole enterprise going radical is kind of crazy. But to say, this line of business, this division, why don't you go crazy and learn what it's all about for us? Get started on this, and let's work with you while we keep other things moving,
Yeah.
is a great part of the conversation. And it leads right back to what James was talking about, how DevOps has got to be value driven, and that value has to come from what the business is trying to achieve.
The business has to define the value.
Right.
It can't just be I'm going faster or I automated more. Let's be a reason behind that, which is what we were talking about before. But that's sort of classic, Jim. What you're talking about, sort of that, I call it pockets of DevOps or bubbles of DevOps, which is the right way. You can't go into an organization and wave a wand or winkle your nose and it's all DevOps. As a matter of fact, surveys showed probably 10% or less of where enterprises are end-to-end DevOps, right?
I talk to none that are end-to-end DevOps.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't be talking to you anymore. No, I'm only kidding. But, yet, conservative estimates are 50% or more of organizations are dabbling in DevOps, right? Other estimates may be as high as 66, 70% dabbling in DevOps. So therein lies the rub, right? You have all these companies or organizations that are doing what you're saying, Jim.
I'd say we're seeing, strangely, what we expected, which doesn't make me brilliant, just makes me lucky. But what we're seeing from the enterprises I'm working with is a combination of DevOps adoption radically, where there's a disruption occurring, where you need to, or you're forced to. But then we see some old applications where they simply say, we have no reason to change this. We're going to keep updating it once every 18 months and everyone's happy. And then we see applications where part of the application is homed in the enterprise in the traditional ways, moving slowly and carefully to ensure the stability of that piece, while perhaps the front end is being refactored so that they can use DevOps practices to move more
And
fast,
things like the
more
cloud.
rapidly to
And
mobile.
to me, the perfect example is, I have an application where my data maybe stays on the mainframe, right? And my, the jewels are there, but maybe I move the UI
Exactly.
to a cloud server or
And
something like
the
that.
data staying on the mainframe. I wasn't going to say mainframe to you today, but you brought it up.
Well,
The data still lives on the mainframe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, a couple of classic things, and these are trends that I see, not just here at Think. I mean, at DevOps.com. Number one is the relearning, if you will, because we seem to have lost it, that data is king. And at the end of the day, it's about the data. All this other stuff's nice, but all the other stuff is window dressing to support our data. Our data is truly the crown jewels, right? Number one. Number two is that things, they don't, no one's throwing their mainframes away. No one's going to throw away 25, 35, 40 years or more of process, of doing business. And just, I don't care how radical the need is. You just don't do that. Or very few. I mean, very few. There might be a use case. I don't know. I mean, it'd be a real outlier.
That process transformation is probably the hardest piece. And certainly for my experience with DevOps practices, as we adopt them internally, I find our teams are slower to really adopt new processes or to abandon processes than I wish they were in some cases.
Yeah. Because people are reluctant to change too, right? I mean, as much as we may vote in our politics for change, at work, no one likes change, right? It means I may lose a job, or I may have to learn something new, and I'm pretty comfortable in what I do now. So it's hard. It's hard coming in and saying to people, hey, I'm going to change.
One of the things we've seen around customers who who've been thinking about that and projects thinking about that is how do they measure the value of DevOps across the whole life cycle from development, operations as well, and using that information as a way to further the investment, to accelerate and try and drive some more of that change. I still think that's in early days on how we collect that information across the whole development and operations piece to understand the value of all the stages. But it's certainly something that
there's definitely a need for more metrics there and learning. Another lesson I've learned over a couple of decades in the business is that there's a crude joke that would come to mind, but you don't do things just because you can.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You do things because there's a real reason to do it, not just because you can. And I think Jim, there's something you said. You need to pick your spots with these applications. If 18 months or once a year updates works for you and there's no competitive pressure, fine. Waterfall's not going to go away, right? Even when we look at the agile adoption, let's say in development, how many shops are really doing water scrum ops, right? Or water scrum fall or whatever.
Yeah.
They take agile principles and they put it into their waterfall methodology. A lot of shops will say they're doing DevOps. They'll take some agile and lean principles and we're doing DevOps, but they may not really be doing they may not be doing continuous delivery or testing or what have you. So, someone once, I forgot who it was, said the DevOps you get is the DevOps you deserve, right? And I think that's true.
So I tell people that they're starting on their DevOps journey the day the ops team stops saying, wait, you can't do that until we approve it, and starts saying, how can I help?
I thought that was the security team.
And the security team's got to get in there too. But I actually think that's a tougher hurdle to climb because people really fear the security guys. But the second they start to say that, then you started on your journey. You're not very far on it, but
it's the first step.
Yeah, it's the first step, and it's a journey. All of these things are a journey. So
I agree with you. It's not us and them. It's we. And by the way, that goes for security, and it goes for testing, and it goes for ops and dev.
I'm even afraid of the security guys. So
well, you would be. So I'm a security guy, 20 years, and I'm not your average security guy. I don't look that kind of part. I don't pick locks or anything. But you got to understand something, that for 30 years, security people have been told, you're not really part of this team. Go by the risk guys.
You're the enforcers.
Right. You're other.
Yeah.
Right. And, you take any child and you keep telling them they're other. You're not us. You're other. You start relishing your otherness after a while. And there's a lot of that in security. We relish being other. And so when you come to us and say, oh, no, all's forgiven, we want you to sit at the table, hey, we're other.
There's a culture shock,
Yeah, it is. And we take pride in being the guys who say no.
So I have to go out and hug a security guy then.
Or buy him a beer. I've never seen many security guys turn down beers. Anyway, though, that sounds like a great place to end this. Beers. So, Jim, James, thanks for being here with us. And and enjoy the rest of the conference. It seems like a great conference this year. This is Alan Shimel from DevOps.com and DevOps TV here at the IBM Think 2018 in Las Vegas. Have a great day, everyone.